Well, hello and welcome to the Bumper to Bumper podcast. I'm Dave Riccio, co-creator of Bumper to Bumper Radio and your host of the Bumper to Bumper podcast. I'm joined here with John Riggle, my co-host. This podcast is about putting you in the know when it comes to your car, common terms, things you might want to know about it. We've all got a car and we want to know what's happening when we go to the auto repair shop. We want to know what we should be doing, taking care of our car so that we don't have some big repair bill because we just didn't know something.
Yeah.
A lot of people have repair bills because maybe they didn't know about a maintenance, something came up.
Yeah.
And probably one of the most common things that causes weird drivability or weird issues with cars, and people don't realize this because every time they turn the key, the car starts. Well, they think they got a good battery because the car starts.
Yeah.
In the old days, the starter in a car was big and round, and it took a lot of power to turn that starter.
Yeah.
The modern starter is little, and it starts the car with not a lot of juice. So as long as the car starts, they think they got a good battery because that's what the battery is there for. One of the reasons the battery is there is to start the car. Starts the car, but you go to the auto shop, and they call you up, and they put a battery tester on it. They say, hey, you got a bad battery. What do you mean I got a bad battery? It starts the car.
Yep.
You know, anybody knows that's a good battery.
Yeah. Car starts fine. I've never had any problem starting the car. I don't need a battery.
Don't need a battery. Yeah. So especially, sometimes I get an old timer. He's been, old timers telling
old timers are a pain.
Hey, tell me he needs a battery. What do you mean I need a battery? Keep that thing working.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, he started on, his car was a 60s and 70s vehicle where there was no computer.
Yeah.
There wasn't this amazing air condition.
No, he had an old Cadillac with a 500-inch motor in it that took 250 amps to crank the darn thing because it had this, old school, starter in the thing. Now the new starters are this little bitty permanent magnet gear reduction starters that take 80 amps to
start the car.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a ton of electronics on a car nowadays. And this is, we are Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair. So we're working on transmissions often. And where the battery comes up, people come to our shop, and they've got a transmission that is shifting. I'm thinking that we recently had, I think it was like a Chrysler 200 or something like that. When that thing would shift every now and then, you thought the transmission was going to jump out of the car. It was wicked hard, and you'd be coming to a stop, and whammo, doing some really crazy stuff. And it came from another shop who had the car for 3 weeks because they couldn't figure out what the heck was going on.
Yeah.
Brought it over, and first thing you do on every car that you test, I watch it comes in the bay, test the battery on the car.
Every car gets a battery test. Every single car. Yeah.
And so that person thought they needed a transmission for their car.
Yeah.
The last shop thought they needed a transmission for their car.
Yeah.
We got it over to our shop, and guess what it needed?
Battery.
A battery. Yeah. So what happens is that the battery not only starts the car, that's one of its features, but it also runs all the electronics in the car. And there's something in the car called keep alive memory. And that's all the adjustments that the computer is making for this transmission and for everything that happens. And that keep alive memory sometimes doesn't run when that battery voltage drops when the car sits overnight or whatever it may be. It starts up in the morning, throws up all the adaptive values.
Yeah.
And now that transmission can't work right because all those values are screwed up. So can't underestimate the battery. What are the biggest things that you see that batteries cause? The ones that aren't bad because they start the car, but they are bad because...
No, we wind up... Heck, I had a Chrysler. I've seen a Chrysler and a Honda, both with bad batteries that didn't move. Okay?
Didn't move.
That's getting pretty extreme, but yeah, the transmissions actually went into a neutral state because we didn't have enough capacity in the battery, and you'd start the car and you'd start it up and throw it gear and there was nothing. Well, what happened was while we were cranking it, it would crank fine at a normal 250 RPM or so, but the voltage was really low on the system. The voltage is down around 9.8, 9.6 volts. PCM goes to sleep. PCM says, I don't work unless I got 10.5 volts here. So if that voltage drops that low, we lose all the memory. If we do manage to get the car started, when the voltage is that low, the computer's looking at it, making all these adjustments to the fuel injectors, the solenoids in the transmission. When we don't have enough current or voltage to the solenoids, like the fuel injectors are solenoids, it's just the solenoids in the transmission, when the voltage drops low for those components, they don't operate properly. So there are these values that we add because if the voltage is going low, okay, I need to open that injector sooner and longer to deliver the fuel to this thing. So we start making these adjustments. Or I need to crank up the pressure because I know my voltage is low, I know my transmission solenoid, my PC solenoid, the pressure control solenoid probably isn't controlling the pressure correctly. I need to add a little bit more pulse width or time to how long we keep that thing open. So when that voltage drops off, all of a sudden we've got all these adaptive strategies that are adapting to a situation where the battery voltage is low. And now we can wind up with some real drivability problems because there really isn't anything wrong with the transmission, yet we're adding all this additional pressure to the trans. We'll wind up with hard shifts. We'll wind up with all kinds of timing issues with the shifts, all because of a bad battery.
And that's the thing that, believe it or not, in the way we do it here at Tri-City is that you go down a checklist. And my theory behind that is, remember, you used to walk in the airplane when I was a kid, and you could actually see the pilot.
Yeah.
And he had a checklist. You know, he's checking out, okay, elevators are working, ailerons are working, all that stuff. He's literally going down a checklist because he can't have a mistake.
Yeah.
Because a mistake there costs lives.
Yeah.
And so the theory is that, the checklist keeps you out of trouble. So you go down a checklist each and every time. That way you don't miss something obvious. Mm-hmm. And I think in our business, that gets bypassed more than anything.
Oh, yeah.
Guy jumps in the car, plugs in it, sees a code, and people have these little weird problems that they can never get fixed because maybe they're intermittent.
Yeah.
And intermittent issues, in my mind, come from battery issues. Mm-hmm. But the guy never put the battery tester on it.
Yeah.
It started the car, battery must be good, right?
Right.
And it's just a step that I've seen technicians skip. Mm-hmm. In our example, was over at the shop, he thinks the transmission's bad, he's had it for 3 weeks, he can't figure it out.
Yeah.
If he would have just started with a battery, car would have been fixed.
Yeah, you have to recognize it, though. And you also have to understand what that battery does. The battery, primary function is starting the car. That's what we use it for. That's our voltage source when the car is off. Once the car is started and running, now the alternator becomes the voltage source, and we use the alternator to charge the battery. That battery is there to act as a ballast. The alternator isn't really designed to run all those electrical systems because there's so many transient events happening. We're turning cooling fans on and off. Some of those cooling fans pull 30 amps of current. We've got air conditioning compressors. You've got brake lights. You've got all these things that are changing the system voltage or putting loads on and off constantly in the car. So that battery provides a ballast. It provides enough extra current or amperage to be able to smooth out those transitions because all of the components in that car operate on direct current, and we need a good, steady supply of direct current, voltage and current, to make all these systems work properly. So again, we can have a battery that'll start the car and work perfectly. If it doesn't have enough capacity, when that cooling fan comes on, all of a sudden the voltage drops low. Computer's like, oh, what's this? I got to adjust for this. It'll make an adjustment, and maybe that cooling fan comes off. Now we've made an adjustment to something. When the cooling fan comes off, something else doesn't work right. Or something doesn't work right when the cooling fan comes on. I had a Chrysler here with a bad battery cable once upon a time that wouldn't move. And there was some resistance in the battery cable, and car didn't move because we didn't have a good voltage supply to the car. And the way I spotted that was I had the scan tool there. I flipped the AC on when the cooling fans came on. I could watch the voltage go from, like 13.5 volts, it drops down to like 9.8. It's like, that's not right.
Yeah.
That can't happen like that.
That's a problem.
Yeah. So that's the kind of things you have. And because everything is computer controlled, everything needs this good supply of direct current and voltage, when that battery fails, it can cause all kinds of weird problems. And it's just one of those basic fundamental things. You got to start with, if your foundation isn't any good, you don't need to be over here. You don't need to be over here putting computers in the car and pulling your hair out trying to diagnose stuff. Back to the basics every time. Do the same basic fundamental inspections on every car.
So as a consumer, and we live in a unique climate, Arizona. Battery, if you get 2.5 years out of it, you're living right.
Yeah.
You know,
That's really what we see as the average. There's, there'll be the oddball out there. You'll find a 3 or 4 or 5 year old battery every once in a while. That's the exception, not the rule in Arizona. For the most part, 2.5 years. You get 2.5 years out of a battery. Yeah, that's about what I would
put it in your
expect.
put it in your budget for the year.
Yeah.
Every couple of years, I may be buying a battery for the car. Now, on batteries, there is a huge range.
Yeah.
You can buy a battery that might cost you $300. You can buy a battery that you're in there for $125, and they are not all the same.
Yeah.
So I see cheap batteries, and the problem with cheap batteries, and you brought this up to me earlier, John, is they're messy, they're dirty, they're corrosive.
That's the number. That's the biggest issue for me. Is we know the battery's only going to last 2.5 years. The best ones last 2.5 years. Well, the cheap ones last 2.5 years. Okay. My big thing is when they roll in and they're covered with corrosion. Corrosion, especially on the late model cars, that corrosion runs down, destroys wire harnesses. Some of these battery cables are actually built into the wiring harnesses. If you actually try to obtain one of those battery cables, the guy on the other end of the phone will go, that comes with an engine harness. It's $1,500.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, whoa, all I need is a battery cable
Yes.
here,
But not like the old days.
So cleanliness is important, and the cheaper batteries tend to gas more. So we have to vent all of these batteries. Other than when you get into lithium ion and stuff like that, all these lead acid batteries that we use, they all have to be vented one way or another. People call them sealed batteries. Yeah,
No such thing.
technically they're not. They're not really sealed batteries. They're vented somewhere. Well, that battery acid, as that battery acid vents and collects around the battery, it promotes the corrosion that occurs when we have dissimilar metals together. So we've got a lead battery post, we've got some kind of tinned cable that attaches to it, two different dissimilar metals. We may have a bolt that goes through that's cadmium plated, maybe chrome, different kinds of plating. So they have to be careful how they pick those. But as soon as you add acid to it, you may strip some of that plating away. That's when we start to have corrosion occur on batteries. So I look for batteries that are clean.
Clean batteries.
Yeah.
Batteries. And a lot of times, because that's something that most people can do themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say do them themselves, you roll your eyes, but because they're often installed wrong, or someone didn't take the time to do it properly. And how many times do we see a battery or a car come in with a battery that's not even bolted down? The hold downs don't get back in place, or bent down in place right, or the cables that are on there didn't get cleaned, back to that corrosion. And so I hate to see batteries changed on the side of the road. And some people do. I mean, if you're on the side of the road, you got to do what you got to do. But you don't want to underestimate the installation of that battery.
Well, so here's what I look at. And this is a tip for everybody. Everybody's seen corrosion on a battery. Somebody's opened their hood and seen that, it looks like a science fair project, or it looks like there's cauliflower growing on your battery or something. And everybody has all these wild ideas about how you clean that off. Yeah, soda pop, baking soda, all this stuff. Hey, let me give you a tip. Cold water and lots of it. Before I do any battery service, if it's corroded and nasty, the first thing I do is pull it out. I take a shop garden hose here, and I put gallons of water across that battery. You'll be surprised that heavy white corrosion it'll disappear. If you run enough water on it, it will soften up. Occasionally, you need to take a wire brush or even a nylon brush and brush it down. That's the first thing I do before I put my wrenches on there. Some of these wrenches cost me $25, $30 a piece.
Yeah.
That battery acid tears up the chrome on those wrenches, and I really don't want to do that. And you'll find out that working around it is just a lot better. But here's the tip on that. You go out, I don't know what, are you do-it-yourselfer? You check the oil in your car, you check it once a month, probably. Look at a battery. If the battery is all corroded, grab the garden hose, run
Rinse it
some
off.
water across it. You probably don't even have to scrub it. Just occasionally run the garden hose across it. It'll keep that battery clean and prevent the corrosion. All those pads and things that you see, throw all those in the trash. All they do is space those terminals up so a lot of the terminals will not clamp properly.
Yeah, cause more issues than good.
Yeah, I hate all of those. Everybody wants to spray gooey stuff on the terminals to try to seal them and stuff. Battery cables should be clean and dry. If they are clean and dry, you won't have corrosion. But you gotta make sure you keep that mist of battery acid off the top of the battery. The battery acid that is normally vented will cause issues and cause that corrosion. But if you keep it clean, it really will extend the life of the cables, the car, the battery.
And you won't have these weird gremlins in your car.
Yeah.
That's the thing about cars. They get weird gremlins and it could go back to the battery.
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't want a weird gremlin, we can't underestimate the importance of a good battery that is clean, and don't push them past their life, because that's when they start to do damage to the car. Here at the Bumper to Bumper podcast, we're putting you in the know when it comes to your car. Thanks for joining us. Well, hello, I'm Dave Riccio, your host of the Bumper to Bumper podcast, and I would like to thank you for tuning in. If you want one of your car questions to be answered on our podcast, tap the link in the description for a chance to have your question featured. And while you are there, we would love for you to like and subscribe to see more Bumper to Bumper podcasts in the future.